It's finally time to make some transfers. Armed with 4 free transfers and the Chelsea fixture run complete, which has been a complete bust with Enzo and Chalobah, it's time to take a look at my team and the best options I'm looking at to improve the squad as we look and head into Gameweek 28. Welcome to my channel. I'm your host, Femi. Let's jump into it. So we have to make some moves. And I saw this on X in terms of Virgil van Dijk with his 17-pointer against Sunderland, outscoring Trevor Chalobah in these 4 games of this amazing fixture run, so-called amazing fixture run for Chelsea. Now, unfortunately, obviously, I think in hindsight, the Chelsea assets were interesting because this fixture run, it looked all green on the FDR ticker, but it didn't come to fruition. And I think we can all be confident that we never thought Chalobah would just get primarily defensive contribution points, and we never thought that Enzo would not be able to really get attacking returns. Even with João Pedro and Palmer coming back into the side and playing extremely well, you thought from a top 4, hopeful side like Chelsea, there'd be more points to be spread around, but that wasn't the case. So ultimately what we need to do is look at the team and look at those players primarily as players we need to move out. But first, let's take a look at something in terms of the next 2 game weeks that I want you to be aware of. So for the next 2 game weeks, it's quite interesting. They're both early deadlines. Game week 28 is a Friday deadline. Game week 29 is a Tuesday deadline. And I've talked a lot about this on this channel where early deadlines give the opportunity to get, these transfers in quicker to allow you to maybe make some moves. As you'll see in my transfer plans coming up shortly, I'm definitely looking at a strong player on a punt. And then another player I'm targeting potentially has a good fixture run up until game week 31. So we need to change the squad. The amount of blanks that are occurring in the midfield is just a little bit too much. So let's take a look at those players I'm considering now as we look at our transfer plans. So when I think of my transfer plans, I think the midfield there's a lot more upside. Not only if midfielders, if they score goals, do they usually get in the bonus, which allows them to get the most bonus points. Of course, we can hope for a defender goal, but as we saw with Gabriel, we were all hoping in the double game week for a goal. It never occurred. It's a little bit more rare, so you focus on the midfield to get those goals. So when I look at the midfield, I have 2 really big problem spots. I have Martinelli, who I put in for the double game week punt, who's not really working out. So he's a potential spot to change. And I do have Enzo Fernandez, who I'm very much looking to get out. And so with that said, Chalobah potentially can wait. I've looked at the fixtures and, there's not that too many defenders that I'm really aching to get into my squad. It would have been nice to put in Diouf, who's had such a great 3-week run, but he's been on my bench and he plays for West Ham, of course. And he's only 4.0. So for all those people who went James Hill, Diouf has done really well, probably just as good. So he's a great option. Obviously playing for West Ham side that's trying to fight relegation. So he's going to, try and perform to the best of his abilities. So when we look back around to the midfield, it looks like I'm going to really select the guy who was on my thumbnail and go with Ryan. I really like him in terms of him playing 90 minutes. He seems quite nailed in the squad. And the thing I like about him as well is he doesn't have all the minutes in his legs that so many of the players in the Premier League have. There's been so many games this year. There's just seems to be always more. So he looks like a fresh person to put in and just play and get some returns. So that's one player I'm looking at. And then the other player I'm looking at is on the Fulham side. And so Fulham has a great fixture under game week 31, a lot of home games. And I'm looking at Harry Wilson. I'm looking at Iwobi, who I talked about in a last video and previous video here. I think they're both great options. So I'm going to see potentially downgrading Martinelli to one of those 2 players, as Martinelli at 6.8 is quite an over price asset considering what he can return. And so those are the ways I'm thinking about my transfers. Of course, I'll let you guys know what I go with as we continue there. And now I want to share with you some really interesting partnership news that I have coming up next. So I'm very proud to be partnered with Footium. They reached out to me and I was really excited to really check out their game. It's a football management game online and it just gives us something different than FPL to take a look at. And I'm actually really enjoying it thus far. The exciting thing is my team in the first game, we won our first game, which was nice. And I was able to set my lineup up and, really, do quite well. I set up in a 4-3-3. I played an aggressive attacking style. And if you see these stats, you can see how I dominated my first match. So it's all in great fun. And I will have a link in my description to join my mini league. And if you guys haven't tried it out, again, like I mentioned, I just tried it out this week. And so I'm getting to know my team and my squad and all the different features in the game. So please take a look and have a lot of fun and use my link in the description below. And I look forward to seeing you in the mini league. So for game week 27, there's still one game to go on Monday night. And it's Everton versus Man U, and I have Bruno Fernandes. But let's take a look at the squad and see how it's doing right now. So I'm on 42 points. Haaland got the extra point after the update. So my captain finished on 12 points. I almost went Semenyo. I'm glad I didn't. And I just wanted to go with Haaland because, I think he's heating up, and it sort of proves the point. He has now returns in back-to-back games. So he's looking like a good bet all the way to game week 31. In terms of the back, Sunderland had a tough game, and now they're starting to leak goals a little bit. They're losing 3-1 to Fulham at home. And now Royce ended up with 1 point. Ballard, who's been such a strong player for me, has 4 points. He picked up an assist for the penalty that Enzo Lafitte deposited for Sunderland. So he's been such a strong pick and a great differential for me. So I've always liked him a little bit more than Mukiele, even though he was priced higher. And he's really been rewarding that faith. Chalobah, again, 2 points. He's going to be coming out of the squad at some point and or sitting on the bench, especially with Arsenal next. And then Gabriel with a 2-pointer. Not his best performance. The flop that he had on the potentially equalizing goal at 2-1 when Arsenal was leading was a little bit embarrassing. But, we'll see if he can stay on his feet moving forward. And then Munoz had the 9-pointer, rewarding the faith in that 1-0 victory over Wolves on why I picked him. He has such a great points per game average. He was almost averaging, I believe, almost 6 points a game as a defender. So he's done really well this year. And even Crystal Palace, with all this, noise around them, they continue to, perform, at least in the Premier League to an extent. So it's good to see him, and great that I made that move to try and get him in, even with the blank 31, to try and get as many points as I can. And with Enzo in the midfield, another blank, we know we're going to make some transfers there. I mentioned Fernandes, and then Rice and Semenyo both with DEFCON. Declan Rice, not his best game, giving away the first goal to Spurs, but he did rebound in the second half and played strong. I do like Rice moving forward. I think he's starting to get going. He was really on the ball a lot, and he already takes set pieces, as we know, so I don't advise you to sell him. But of course, for your squads, it's a little bit team dependent, but I'll be keeping him for the long haul, as well as Semenyo. Who I'll be keeping to game week 31. He's playing really, really advanced, and we know his attributes as he's one of the highest scoring midfielders in the game. Him, Rice, and Bruno Fernandes in that category. And then Thiago. So Thiago's a little bit of disappointing player right now. He's not getting those returns. He looked amazing against Arsenal in game week 26, but we're just going to see and monitor him as Brentford comes into a nice fixture run. So we'll see how he does. And Haaland I already had mentioned. Dubravka with 2 points there. Martinelli with 1 point. He just came off the bench. Diouf with 9 points. He may be coming into the lineup this week. We'll see a little bit later in the week on that. And then Mane with 2 points. He really just, 4.5 million forward, just a bench player. So if you like that video, please like and subscribe below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.